guys, welcome back to Resistance Chicks. I'm one of your hosts, Michelle. Today is the 28th of June, 2019. I cannot tell you how excited I am about tonight's show. You are not going to want to miss what we have coming up.
Are you ready to go to Tulsi? We're going to get to Tulsi, and then we're going to go to the
love Tulsi so much.
Back in America, though, the 2020 election will be the first election in which children born after 9/11 will be able to vote, which is bewildering to those of us who lived through it. During last night's debate, Congressman Tim Ryan of Ohio said it's America's duty to keep fighting in Afghanistan for some reason, 18 years after we toppled the Taliban. That turned out to be a mistake. Tulsi Gabbard, the only veteran on stage, corrected him. Watch this.
It's okay.
Is that what you will tell the parents of those two soldiers who were just killed in Afghanistan? Will we just have to be engaged? As a soldier, I will tell you that answer is unacceptable. We have to bring our troops home from Afghanistan. We are in a place in Afghanistan where we have lost so many lives. We've spent so much money, money that's coming out of every one of our pockets, money that should be going into communities here at home, meeting the needs of the people here at home. We are no better off in Afghanistan today than we were when this war began.
Aloha, Congresswoman Gabbard.
Aloha, Tucker.
So I couldn't help but notice, and I'm sure you don't want to play the victim in this, but that you had, despite the fact that you won a number of online polls, you had the most Google searches, your name after the debate, you got some of the fewest minutes to speak of any of the 10 candidates on stage, and you were the only one who was essentially attacked personally by the moderators. Why do you think that was?
Look, it shows that there's a clear bias in place. I made the most of every minute that I had. Wish I had the opportunity to have more time to address these important issues. But I want to just point out something from that clip that you played that I think is really important, where we hear a lot of politicians say this same argument that, well, we've got to stay engaged in the world, otherwise we'll be isolationists, as though the only way the United States can engage with other countries is by blowing them up or strangling them with economic sanctions, by smashing them and trying to overthrow their governments. This is exactly what's wrong with this whole premise and the whole view with which too many politicians, too many leaders in this country are viewing the United States' role in the world. How about the United States be a leader in the world, work out differences and build relationships with negotiations and diplomacy and finding common interests and seeing how we can work together so that we can stop sending our men and women in uniform into harm's way, serving in missions that do not serve the interests of the American people, that make our country less safe and actually end up causing more harm and more damage to the people in the countries where we wage these wasteful regime change wars. That's the kind of change in leadership that I'm seeking to bring as president.
You just mentioned sanctions. You're not questioning the ironclad bipartisan consensus in Washington that sanctions against Iran are morally right.
So, okay, that's good on Tulsi, but I just love her. I think she's amazing. I
would be afraid for her to actually run against Donald Trump, because I think that she would do well. I still don't think she'd beat him, but I think that she would do really, really well. She is a socialist. I don't agree with her policies, but as a person, she's real. She is a genuine. And that's why they will not put anybody on this stage forth as their number one candidate that won't be a patsy. And Tulsi Gabbard won't be bought off. She's not going to walk their line. She's not going to dance to their tune and say the lines that they give her. And that's why they won't put her forward, which is why they are shooting themselves in the foot. They would rather fail at trying to achieve their colossal globalist plan where they have a puppet than to actually have a Democrat president. They'd rather Trump be president, okay, than to put forward a candidate that could beat Trump that they couldn't control. It's honestly, insanity and power hungriness at its epitome.
I don't know if she would beat him, only because
I don't think she
aligns
would
with him in a lot of ways.
Right.
So here's the hot mic thing that happened.
Is there a role for the federal government in order to get these guns off the streets?
What's happening?
We are hearing our colleagues' audio. If the control room can turn off the mics. Yeah, if the control room can turn off the mics of our previous moderators, we will.
I think it's the prior moderators.
You know, we prepared for everything.
Guess what, guys?
We did not prepare for this.
We are going to take a quick break. We're going to get this technical situation fixed. We will be right back.
Oops. And what's so funny to me is it actually happened twice. And I'm thinking to myself, okay, so you knew how to mute the mics of the people that you didn't want to speak, and yet you couldn't find out how to quickly mute the mics of the people who were not supposed to have.
So let's go over a few of their crazy ideas, okay? So I love this little picture here of the little rainbows and unicorns 2020. So Senator Kamala Harris wants companies to prove that they pay men and women equally. Penalties if they don't, she shouts. But there are lots of reasons other than sexism why companies pay some men more than women. Harris also wants government to hold social media platforms accountable for the hate infiltrating their platforms but holding them accountable means censorship. If politicians get to censor media, they'll censor anyone who criticizes them. Bernie Sanders wants the post office to offer banking services. The post office, it already loses billions of dollars despite its monopoly on delivering mail. Sanders also wants to increase our national debt by forgiving $1.6 trillion in student debt loan. He wants to ban for-profit charter schools and freeze funding for nonprofit charters. That's great news for some government school bureaucrats and teachers unions that don't want to compete, but bad news for kids who flourish in charters when the government schools fail. Senator Cory Booker once sounded better about charters, saying, when people tell me they're against school choice or charter schools, I say, as soon as you're willing to send your kid to a failing school in my city, then I'll be with you. Unfortunately, now that Booker is presidential candidate, he says little about school choice. He also wants government to guarantee people's jobs and to pay for America's rent. Senator Kirsten Gillibrand wants to force everyone to buy fertility treatment insurance. Senator Elizabeth Warren wants to impose a wealth tax on very rich people that would certainly benefit accountants and tax lawyers while inspiring rich people to hide more assets instead of putting them to work. Warren also wants to ban all oil and gas drilling on federal land, have government decide who sits on corporate boards, and make college free. Have government decide who sits on corporate boards.
Wow.
The Democrat who leads the betting odds, Vice President Joe Biden, also says college should be free. Free? Colleges have already jacked up their prices much faster than inflation because taxpayers subsidize too much of college. And that's the ticket right there. If there weren't government subsidies, and here's the thing, you want to end the high prices. Here's the thing about healthcare. Here's the thing about college, and the things that are like, that do put people into debt, that do put people in, $250,000 for an art degree. You go to an emergency room and you shouldn't be fretting that you're going to come out and lose your house because your kid got tonsillitis.
Right.
You know what I mean? That's absolutely ridiculous. However, when it comes to like colleges, we have this thing, it's called federally backed student loans. And as soon as the feds decided that they would literally come into your house, your home, your job, and take all your loans that are not refinanceable. So you're stuck with that student loan at that rate forever.
Right.
Okay? That's absolutely insane. You should be able to refinance your student loans. It's so stupid. But anyways, remember how many companies would pop up tomorrow? But these federally backed student loans guarantee that the colleges can just give everybody an education, even if they don't deserve it, even if they know that they're giving them false hope, and they're not going to get any bang for their buck.
Right.
You know what I mean? So if you told the colleges you're on the hook, you want to give a kid a loan, you want to give a kid some tuition reimbursement, you want to, that's fine, but we're not going to back it federally. Those prices are going to drop down because they know that they want the people to pay. They want the people to pay. But as long as the government says, don't worry, I will garnish their wages, they'll just jack up the prices and put kids needlessly. And no sane adult would tell an 18-year-old to take on $250,000 of debt.
Or $25,000 in debt.
Exactly.
It doesn't matter. It used to be that whether it was a car or a house or going to college, you could afford to do that by having your parents just save away some money, like a college, they always say saving for college. It used to be if you saved like 10 grand, if you saved 5 grand, it used to be before inflation and the Federal Reserve, if you saved like, $500, you could go to college.
Right.
All right. And so what we have are products that, thanks to the Federal Reserve, they can charge exorbitant prices for, because they're allowing you to pay it over time. Prices get capped when credit is not a possibility.
Right. Okay, so we're going to get to huge censorship. I have Ted Cruz grilling Google. We've got Dan Crenshaw grilling Google. We have a lot of really good things I want to show you tonight. We're going to stay within the censorship limits while exposing the censorship tonight, so stay with us. But these are some of the awards, because I can't, I really would love to talk all night about the Democrat thing, because it was not boring. The debate. It was not boring. It was so fun to watch. It was it was literally, I hate clowns, but I like these ones. All right. The biggest flop was young Beto, don't call me Robert Francis O'Rourke. And did you know Bill de Blasio, that's not his given name? Like, he changed his name for like fame. Really weird.
That's strange.
Yeah, so let's see. Most inexplicable statement. If we had to deconstruct every inexplicable policy statement made over the 2 nights, it would take hours on end. Instead, we offer this. When asked, what would be his very first priority when he assumes the presidency in January 2021, if he were to be president? Joe Biden says, to defeat Donald Trump.
But if he was in the White House, then he would have already defeated him. And maybe he has a time ship.
Biggest surprise, group award. The second debate kicked off with Bernie Sanders promising to raise taxes to pay for his $30 trillion government-controlled Medicare for All program, while claiming, of course, that it will be offset by lower health costs. This set into motion a succession of candidates promising to do the same. For time immemorable, it was understood that you should never promise to raise taxes, for it would amount to certain defeat. Well, obviously, nobody cares about that now. Most socialist candidate, the hardest choice of all, given that every one of the 20 candidates on stage has openly voiced support for undiluted socialist policies, such as the Green New Deal and Medicare for All. So you have to give the award to the candidate who seems most committed to the gut on full collectivism.
In the gut.
In the gut. Thus, the winner would have to be Bernie Sanders, whose perpetual rage against the machine oozes authenticity. I watched him on that stage, and he was angry. He was calling for a revolution. He was literally basically Fidel Castro on stage. It was a sight to behold here in America. Most moderate candidate, extremely low bar. I really think that was Delaney, but most humorous line. Another extremely low bar, because there were all of about 3 humorous lines delivered over 4 grueling for the viewers hours by. Nobody really laughed. Like, we were laughing at them, but they weren't laughing. Okay? The winner is Senator Amy Klobuchar, who tweaked Trump. I don't think we should conduct foreign policy in our bathrobe at 5 in the morning. Pete Buttigieg said his foreign policy is hard to predict because we have no idea which of our most important allies Trump will have ticked off worse between now and then. And Kamala Harris scolding of her fellow debaters bickering amongst themselves and says, we got to put food on the table.
To look up and see when the next debates are. They're going to be in July, the 30th and the 31st, 30th and 31st in Detroit. I love that it's going to be in Detroit. CNN is going to host it. Oh boy, that should be exciting. It was better with, I think, NBC.
Okay, so a bunch of the people that we saw last night didn't qualify. There's only 14 that qualify for polling.
So Tulsi is not on there.
She is.
Oh yeah, there she is. Okay, cool. So we've got Joe Biden, Bernie, Elizabeth Warren, Kamala Harris, Pete Buttigieg, Beto O'Rourke, Cory Booker, Amy Klobuchar, Castro, I don't know who Inslee is, Tulsi Gabbard, Andrew Yang, Marianne Williamson. She's the spiritual guru. That's going to be great. And Christine Gillibrand. Thank you. And God bless you. All right, you guys, we're signing off. We'll be back here on Sunday at 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time for our European and UK news.
I got the show lining up already. There's a lot of stuff going on.
Yeah, it's going to be awesome. All right, you guys, good night. God bless.
was cold, all alone. No place for home every day, so afraid. But you called my name.